All right, so now we're back. Let's have Laura go around and collect the cards. So each group of two, just give her one card, or make sure that like the question you want to have asked, is there. And I'm going to ask Laura to give me the first two cards, so I can. All right, and then collect the rest of them here. So Nathan, you still there? We didn't lose you.
Still here.
All right. So Laura's gonna sort through the other cards, but I got two cards in my hand here. I'm just gonna go ahead with the first card here. So the question is, how do you get the projects? Do you go to each department and see where it can be implemented, or do you wait for people to come to you?
In the beginning, when our program wasn't running quite as well, I had to go out and look for things, and then I had to take it to my boss, who's the general manager of the plant, and I had to kind of prove it to him and get him to push on the manager of the area. But now that's changed recently. Now our system we have a lot more momentum, and we've kind of proven our worth. And so now what's going on is we have a growth steering committee that meets once a week, and that includes the key managers, and the goals kind of come down from our general manager. He tells us, I need you to focus on these top 8 areas, and then the managers decide what that means for them, and then they kind of task me with figuring that out. And then in those steering committees, we discuss it, and as we zero in on what the actual Kaizen event is going to be, then they put resources assigned to it. So both, kind of, just moving between the both as your system matures. Eventually, the areas should be pulling for the Kaizen event rather than you pushing.
So just a follow-up to that. So how many Kaizen events do you do a year or a month or whatever? What's the
Yeah. Last year we did I think 6 in the whole year, and it's really just as your system matures, you do more. So I think this year we're already at about 10, and I'd say we're almost definitely going to hit around 16 or 18 by the end of the year. 6 last year was plenty, because you were like telling people to do handstands. So it was hard. We were pushed to our limit with that much change. Now we're doing a lot better. Some of our other Freudenberg plants, some of them do like 50 in a year. So it's all about how ingrained is it in your culture, and how much momentum do you have.
Right. Okay, so here's another question. Have you ever come across people who you feel are interpreting lean in the wrong way? How do you approach it? So this is the mean part of lean, I guess, or something. So how do you get those people thinking the right way?
Definitely yes. Pretty much, like, sometimes every third step that I take, it feels like I encounter someone who's interpreting it the wrong way. I approach it's different every single time. Something that you always got to remember is that lean just is not suited for every person. So there are occasions where a person just needs to not be in that program anymore, and it's time for them to go work somewhere else if they can't perform in a lean manner. But everyone deserves like 8 chances to figure it out. So I do a lot of one-on-one discussions. I try to understand where they're coming from. I get them to explain stuff. Oftentimes I'm very open to experimentation. I always make sure people understand that we're just trying this. It's not set in stone. We can always pull back the changes. It's a pilot. So oftentimes we just try them both, and we just get hard data behind it instead of feelings. And I just tell people, okay, you know what, you think that batching is better? Then let's run a cycle time of you batching. Let's see what your output is. Now let's change it to one-piece flow, and let's see what your output is, and let's run a cycle time of that. And oftentimes once you put that data in front of people, they'll realize that the lean is the better course, and they'll be all about it. If you put the data in front of them and the data points in one very specific direction and they're still being extremely resistant, then it's time to go have a talk with their manager and to just inform their manager of, you know, we've been working on this and this person is not willing to look at it the right way.
Okay, good. I should probably be checking with the person that submitted that question or group. Are we okay on that? I don't know who it was. Is that good? All right. Yes, if you guys want to follow up on anything, just raise your hand and we'll make it a little bit more interactive here. All right, so next question. What was the most effective way to ensure that lean activities will be continued at a company? So the sustainability issue here.
Yeah. That is always the golden question, I feel like. The most effective way that I found is that like I said earlier, you can't be doing lean just for the sake of doing lean. It has to really target a painful area for the person. The person has to be feeling the pain of not being lean, and the solution has to fix that. And if they do feel that way, then it'll sustain every time, a million times better than if you pushed really hard. And if it's not sustaining, then oftentimes that is probably the issue. You're trying to force something on someone that they don't even feel the pain of. Another thing is that it's got to come from the manager. Whoever has direct control over the area, they have to be behind it 100% and supporting it, and they can't oftentimes they have a checkbox mentality of, I was told to do a Kaizen event and so I'm doing it, and that mentality is a big reason why stuff will fail as well. So you need to talk with them. If you feel that that's how they feel, then you got to talk with them and you got to work that out before you actually go into the event itself.
Excellent. So I'm going to flag our folks that are online. So you guys were in breakout rooms. So are there questions in the chat room that we want to share? Or I'm going to ask you, if you're online and you discussed and you came up with a question, I'm going to throw it out to my online folks to come up with one question before we can sort of wrap things up. But I'm going to go one more question from the in-class students here. So how do you facilitate continued communication between departments that never communicate in order to ensure the success of the improvement even after the Kaizen event? So this is, sustaining the Kaizen improvement through communication through departments. Is that an issue or a problem, or how do you do that?
We are pretty actively working on that right now because we have our quality and our engineering department. They just don't communicate. It's a long-term project. You're not going to fix it in a week. What we've done so far is we've implemented a daily meeting board and project tracking in engineering, and then by looking at how often things miss and the reason for why they miss, it became obvious very quickly that there had to be a quality representative in there, because they weren't getting the feedback that they needed from quality, and so they're having to do a lot of rework instead of just getting it right the first time. So that's part of it, the daily meetings and everything. And eventually almost every single company moves to a area where they stop compartmentalizing all of the departments, and they start actually sitting one representative from each department together in a type of a cell. But again, you gotta wait for it to to really pull to you. I mean, we've been doing these daily meetings and incorporating more and more people in them for about a year, and still people don't see the benefit of just putting a quality person sitting right next to an engineer. They still don't see that benefit. So it can really take time. One thing that you can do is you can trace one project, and you can trace how many times is it bouncing between these people, how many emails are going back and forth, how many times you have to walk back and forth from one office to another. And once you do that, you can just show that data. And sometimes people jump right on and they say, oh, well, let's just have the two people sit next to each other. But it takes time.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any chat room questions? So Pedro, do you want to go ahead and read off the chat room question?
So Ross asks, who do you invite to Kaizen events?
Who do you invite to Kaizen events?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, your customer has to be there. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, is that they especially in a factory like mine, they say, well, this person, the customer, and I mean like the person actually running the process, they say, well, that person never graduated high school, so I mean, they may not actually be smart enough to be in a Kaizen event. This kind of goes in line with how you sustain it. If they're in the event, they will sustain it if they help make those decisions. If they're told what to do, then they're going to show you one of their 5 fingers and they're going to run away and not do it. As for other people, whoever has control over the area, the manager or the supervisor, they should almost definitely be in the event. Sometimes it's really hard to get them, so sometimes they can elect to have someone else there, but we've also run into a lot of trouble with people electing someone else, and it's really just because they're avoiding it. It's not because they support it. So whoever has functional control should be in there. Whoever else has key inputs or outputs should be in there. So if you're like a key output, if you're doing a Kaizen event on a molding machine, then quality may be a key output. So you should have them there, because they may be able to bring up a lot of areas where they do extra work because of something happening in molding that they've never told you about. Another, like a key input should be that maybe supply chain should be there, because they're bringing the material to the machine every single hour or day or however often. And again, it may come up a bit of an interface there. And then finally, you always want to have someone who is just completely unassociated with the area. Someone who, I always say, someone who you had to give directions to even find the machine that you're working on that day, because they're just there to ask questions and to slow the Kaizen event down. It's easy for the group, since they're so experienced, to move quick. But if you have someone new there asking the questions, they'll slow everything down, and they'll ask key stuff of like, well, why do you do that? And then everyone will kind of stop and they'll say, we have no good reason.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I think, Nathan, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up at this point. We appreciate your participation in this event. And I think we, at least the people in class here, can show their appreciation by a little hand clapping. Okay, Nathan, this was my first experience with doing the celebrity interview. I've had a couple other people online. It was okay, but we also did the sort of more standard PowerPoint approach. But I'm kind of liking this interview approach. Did it work okay for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like 2 hours is a long way to drive just for like a 50-minute lecture. So this worked out really well for me. I could see us just in the future, just based on commitments at the time. Either I could be there in person or just call in like this. But I hope that this worked out really well.
Yeah, no, it worked out well for us, but we'd always love to see you come up here to San Luis Obispo too. So
sure.
We'll keep that in mind.
All right.
All right, Nathan, thanks. We're going to go. You're welcome to stay and watch the rest of my slides and things, but I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And we'll be back here at 11 o'clock, and we'll finish up on my slides and wrap up the day. Okay?
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, thanks.